Ever since the release of Season 16, the weapon meta has had a very interesting period of diversity and change. And in this video, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to stay ahead of the curve just a little bit with these top 5 weapon combos or loadouts. Now, I'm not just going to tell you what guns to run, I'm also going to give you some tips and tricks for each weapon combo and each weapon specifically, so that you can get a little bit more value out of it. Let's get started. So we're going to go ahead and start off with one of my personal favorites, and that is the R9 Peacekeeper combo. This sort of a weapon loadout is, in my opinion, one of the most fun things to run in pubs. And if you're just kind of a close range W key warrior, playing something like a skirmisher legend, even in ranked, this loadout is definitely going to net you a lot of value. Now, one thing that I personally recommend if you're running R9 Peacekeeper is not to use your R9 as a starter weapon at close range. So if you're kind of in a building, or if you are very close to someone, I highly recommend that unless you have the opportunity to go for a one clip with the R9, you should ideally be pumping people with your Peacekeeper first and then spraying. So it should kind of look like this, right? But whenever you're kind of doing the pump spray combo, you want to switch right back to your Peacekeeper to rechamber it, and then you can go back to your R9. And something that I actually think is really cool, if you can kind of pull it off correctly, is to pump once and then spray down with your R9, rechamber, pump again, and you can actually finish off the next person with the remaining bullets that you have in your R9, as long as you're accurate enough. Another really cool aspect of this loadout with the R9 buffs in Season 16 is that, the R9 as a gun fundamentally just doesn't really have a lot of recoil. And so with that extra damage buff, you can, do a lot of nice damage from mid-range or maybe even long range if you've got that recoil down enough. So it's not like this is an exclusively close-range loadout, but that's definitely where it's going to shine. All right, next up on the loadout list, we have the Nemesis and the R9. And this is not really that big of a surprise. I've seen a lot of professional players and high-tier players run this loadout recently. The reason why this loadout is so good and the reason why pros are running it is because of the fact that the Nemesis is just busted. We all know this. You have the long-range capacity to just absolutely shred people with this gun. And then where the Nemesis falls short in hipfire, that's kind of when you switch to your R9. From here, the hipfire's not really that good. But if I switch to my R9, it's going to be significantly easier to take advantage of that, and is going to be kind of the close range weapon of choice. The kind of tip that I would give for this loadout is going to be inventory management. So I'm actually just going to do a white bag because having no bag just basically means that you lose most of the time. But this is, kind of the ratio of ammo that I would want to have, maybe even dropping a stack of light. If you're carrying 2 stacks of ammo, you want to make sure that you are not using your R9 as a poke weapon. You want to make sure that you're just using it as a close range gun that you are using to finish off the engagements that you're taking. Because obviously, not only does the Nemesis, eat through a lot of ammo, but, a lot of times you are going to want to favor it over the R9 just because of the damage per second and whatnot. Just make sure that, no matter what ratio of ammo you're carrying or however much ammo you're carrying, just make sure that you're using each weapon to a proportionate degrees, right? So if I am carrying an equal amount of ammo between my Nemesis and my R9, I'm going to want to make sure that I'm using both weapons an equal amount, and I'm going to want to make sure that I'm positioning myself in a way that allows me to use both of those guns in an equal amount and get an equal amount of value. But again, on average, I would say that it would be best to just abuse the Nemesis and carry more energy ammo because this gun is ridiculous and we all know it. All right, the next loadout that I have is going to be the Wingman and R9 loadout. This is my personal favorite, and it has been for a long time. Everybody kind of knows this loadout. It's a very high skill, very fast-paced loadout that I really like to run in pubs and even in ranked if I'm feeling myself enough. But I would definitely put this in the top 5 for sure. With Wingman R9, one thing that I would recommend is that you use your Wingman as a way to create openings and to create some form of entry. So, getting a headshot or even a headshot body shot, or even just body shotting a couple times is a really good way to force this person to give up whatever space they're holding, which then, can allow you to kind of move in and finish them off with your R9, right? So just know that there is no strafe speed penalty, and it's really good for picking off people that are using any weapon like an assault rifle or an LMG or a marksman weapon. And you also just want to make sure that you are abusing the strafe speed to its maximum potential. Another thing I would recommend abusing with the Wingman is its hipfire. But hipfiring your Wingman is definitely a very, very valid strategy just because it's so unbelievably accurate. But yeah, kind of similar to the R9 Peacekeeper, you know, you want to get your entry damage with your Wingman, you know, body shot, headshot, and then finish spraying them down with the R9. This is a really good loadout for kind of mid to close range. If you have to be kind of a god with the Wingman to use it at long range with either bullet lead or just kind of learning how to perfectly center your crosshair on that one kind of a position as you strafe left and right, or aim head level. Don't try to settle for body shots. Always try to go for those headshots because that's where the Wingman truly shines, especially with the Skull Piercer hop up. A little inventory management tip for Wingman R9 is to just not carry more than like 2 or 3 stacks of ammo for the Wingman. Ideally, with the Wingman, you only really want to be taking shots at people to level up your Evo, or if you have an intention of eventually closing distance on them and securing that kill. Otherwise, it's just not worth shooting, you know, with your Wingman. You're honestly better off sometimes just trying to practice your recoil control with your R9 to get that long range damage, because light ammo is going to be a lot more easy to find than sniper ammo. All right, the next loadout on the list is going to be the Nemesis Eva. Now, this might be a little bit of an interesting combo, and a lot of people might wonder why I'm not choosing the Peacekeeper. I think the Peacekeeper is an insane shotgun. I think that its damage potential is ridiculous. The Peacekeeper serves a very specific purpose: deal burst damage. It is designed to deal large amounts of damage at once, and it can be a little easy to miss with sometimes, I'll be honest with you. So that kind of comes back to why I would pick the Eva for the Nemesis Eva loadout is, you know, with the Nemesis, I have this burst weapon, right? But it's not really the best spray weapon at close range, you know? But the hipfire on ARs has kind of been nerfed, and you know, the Nemesis, when it was shipped to live servers, didn't really have the best hipfire. So I personally would rather have an Eva as my secondary than a Peacekeeper. Instead of getting my burst damage from like here, from this corner, instead of like peeking out and hitting for like 99 and then whipping out like my R9 and spraying them down, I'm actually kind of getting my burst damage from the Nemesis because it does so much so quickly. And then with the Eva, the amount of, you know, sustained, almost spray weapon like damage that you have the ability to do is kind of crazy. I like to call the Eva the Spitfire of shotguns just because the drum is so big. If you even just get a little bit of damage with your Nemesis and then kind of close distance, like let's do 1, 2, you know, full bursts. I mean, that's pretty generous. You know, 2 shots with the Eva and they're dead. Maybe 1 full headshot burst, you know, 100 A damage. In my opinion, just a better way of playing instead of grabbing a Peacekeeper and, you know, hoping that you kind of hit them for enough damage to, you know, to one pump them, right? That's kind of my take on Nemesis Eva. Alrighty, and last, but most certainly not least, in the top 5 loadouts that I personally have is going to be Prowler Shotgun. The Prowler is still insanely good. I don't want the R9 to overshadow it too much. I know that I have mentioned the R9 pretty much all day today so far, but just know that the Prowler is ridiculous. 3 burst on red armor, and if you have a shotgun to pair with it, it kind of functions as a more close-range version of the Nemesis loadout, where you can kind of, you know, get a couple good bursts and then come in and finish off with your Eva. But yeah, Prowler Peacekeeper, or just, you know, Prowler in general is going to be a really insane weapon to run this season. And if you pair it up with shotguns, you're going to be absolutely deadly at close range. One thing I will say with the Prowler is that, especially for my MNK friends out there, you want to make sure that you are tracking during downtime. A lot of us are kind of tricked by our brains into flicking around or making unnecessary corrections with the Prowler because it is a burst weapon. But if you just simply learn to smoothly track with it, and if you kind of come to the understanding that, you know, you're going to deal just as much, if not more damage than something like an R9 maybe, you know, just because it's a burst weapon, stop making unnecessary corrections and just treat it like it's a full auto weapon, and I promise you will have an insane return on this. I know that I have a purple laser sight as well, but the hipfire on the Prowler is also unbelievably good. Like, stop sleeping on the hipfire on the Prowler. Just abuse it, honestly. It is absolutely insane. This gun is not to be slept on in this season. I know that the Nemesis is good. I know the R9 is good. I know the Peacekeeper is insane. But just remember that the Prowler still exists and you should be using it. All right, well, that is going to close out the top 5 weapon combos and loadouts for Season 16. If there's a weapon that you like to run that I didn't mention or talk about today, be sure to, let me know in the comments. I'm always open-minded. And if you found any of the content in this video informative, educational, or even entertaining, do consider leaving a like. And if you want to see more content like it, be sure to subscribe. My name is Hollow. Thank you so much for watching this far, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.